The rivalry between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner has become one of the great defining sagas of modern tennis, the kind of story that shapes an era. Yet, like most legendary tales, it began quietly, on a stage that almost slipped into obscurity. Its origin has only recently regained attention because of a resurfaced viral video that takes fans back to 2019, when both players were just raw teenagers stepping onto the professional stage. It happened at the Challenger of Alicante, a far cry from the glamour and prestige of Grand Slam stadiums. Alcaraz was just 15 at the time, still little more than a fearless talent with flashes of brilliance that hinted at something greater. Sinner, then 17, was slightly older, more developed physically, and already beginning to establish himself as a promising prospect. On paper, it was just another early-round challenger match, but in reality, it was the first spark of a rivalry that would go on to electrify the tennis world. That encounter, now remembered with almost prophetic weight, carried all the hallmarks of what their future clashes would become. Alcaraz burst onto the court with explosive forehands, remarkable footwork, and the raw intensity of a teenager who refused to be intimidated. Every fist pump, every cry of "Vamos," echoed his hunger to prove himself. Sinner, in contrast, relied on his calm consistency. His smooth ground strokes, disciplined shot selection, and controlled aggression reflected a maturity beyond his years. The match itself was a three-set battle that ended 6-2, 3-6, 6-3 in favor of Alcaraz. On paper, it was a modest win in a small tournament. In hindsight, it was the beginning of a narrative that would capture the imagination of millions. The most striking part wasn't simply the result, but how their contrasting styles were already clear. Alcaraz's unpredictable power and creativity clashed against Sinner's precision and steadiness. Each rally was not just a test of skill but a preview of the endless tactical battles that would later unfold on tennis's biggest stages. Even though it was just a challenger-level match, the energy and intensity that afternoon felt like more. It was as if two rising forces were unknowingly beginning to shape the next great era of the sport. Watching the recently rediscovered footage 6 years later, fans can see the early seeds of everything that makes their rivalry so compelling today: the long, grinding baseline rallies, the daring drop shots, the clever tactical adjustments, and above all, the deep respect they showed one another, even in competition. Every point seemed to carry meaning, every exchange a small lesson in what they were destined to become. For Alcaraz, that victory was not just a win but a statement. To go toe-to-toe and eventually overcome an older, stronger opponent at just 15 was proof that his ambitions weren't just dreams. He showed he belonged, even among professionals, and it was the first outward sign that he would one day stand as one of the best in the world. For Sinner, the loss was no defeat in spirit. Instead, it became part of his development, a reminder that greatness comes through testing yourself against the very best, sometimes even against players your own age. That day revealed to him that he wasn't just competing with peers, he was facing someone who would grow into his fiercest rival. That modest afternoon in Alicante became the first page of a much larger story. In hindsight, the match feels almost symbolic, a foreshadowing of the years to come. Alcaraz brought firepower, imagination, and the thrill of risk-taking, while Sinner brought balance, resilience, and a steadiness that often turned matches into wars of attrition. Together, their games clashed and complemented each other, creating a perfect recipe for one of the most electrifying rivalries tennis has ever seen. The years that followed only amplified that first spark. Both men rose rapidly through the ATP rankings, quickly leaving behind challenger-level events for bigger stages, larger crowds, and global attention. They began collecting titles, rewriting records, and proving themselves as central figures in a new era of tennis, one where the baton was slowly passing from the legends of the past to the fresh faces of the future. Each time they met, fans remembered that first contest in Alicante, the day when two little-known teenagers unknowingly launched a saga that would grow into one of the sport's greatest rivalries. Sinner revealed a level of maturity far beyond his years, quietly refining his game into a model of consistency and discipline. Alcaraz, meanwhile, evolved into an unstoppable force, adding layer after layer to his already devastating arsenal. At first, clay was Alcaraz's kingdom, but soon he conquered grass, hard courts, and every surface tennis had to offer. Sinner, never far behind, matched him stride for stride, sharpening his weapons and proving time and again that he had the resilience to withstand Alcaraz's fiery brilliance. Each carved their own unique path, yet their journeys seemed destined to intertwine. No matter how far they traveled, the memory of that first meeting remained, a reminder of the humble beginnings that birthed something monumental. With each new clash, commentators and fans alike revisited that day in 2019, marveling at how much had changed while realizing how much had already been written into their story back then. It's no wonder that when the video resurfaced years later, it spread like wildfire. People weren't just watching two teenagers playing tennis, they were witnessing history in its earliest form. That match, which once seemed like just another stepping stone in their careers, had revealed itself as the opening chapter of a saga that now defines modern tennis. The rivalry did not begin under the bright lights of a Grand Slam final or in front of tens of thousands of fans at a Masters 1000. It began on a modest clay court in Alicante, where the world was still blind to the greatness growing before it. Two young boys, full of ambition and heart, unknowingly played the first notes of a symphony that would continue to echo across the sport for years to come. Looking back now, it feels almost inevitable. The Alcaraz-Sinner rivalry has become more than just a series of matches. It is the story of two prodigies who grew into champions, who pushed each other beyond their limits, and who captured the imagination of millions. That day in 2019 wasn't a footnote. It was the spark, the genesis of something far greater than anyone could have predicted, and so, every time Alcaraz and Sinner step onto the court today, fans are reminded of that small challenger event years ago. They see not just two of the best players of this generation but also the continuation of a journey that began on a quiet afternoon in Spain. What seemed like a simple contest has, with the passage of time, become one of the most meaningful beginnings in tennis history. That opening match in Alicante, played before a handful of spectators, will forever be remembered as the birthplace of a rivalry that now defines an era.